Thank you for joining the City of Kingston's Common Council at our special finance meeting. Today is Monday, November 30th. My name is Andrea Schott, the Council President and organizer for our virtual meetings. Before we begin, we'd like to go over a few guidelines to help us navigate the system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that members and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. As organizer, I reserve the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Council members and staff will control their own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. If a council member or staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hands. The chairperson will call on them before they speak by stating their name clearly for our audio listeners. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website. Although we will not have public speaking tonight, you could sign up to our council meeting tomorrow by emailing Elisa Tinty, or you could submit written comments by emailing Elisa Tinty at emtinty@kingston-ny.gov, or by dropping them off at the drop box located outside the side doors. We also encourage you to reach out to the committee chairs or your ward's representative at any time. If you have any audio issues, send a text message to the following number, 845-594-61. Please note that phone calls will not be answered during the meeting. The number again to text is 845-594-6120. As the organizer, I reserve the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have in attendance Chair Alderman Doug Coop, members Alderman Steve Shabbat, Alderman Tom Davis, Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch, and Alderman Rennie Scott Childress. Non-voting council members, Alderman Jeffrey Ventura Morel, Alderman Patrick O'Reilly, Alderwoman Rita Worthington, and Alderman Don Tollerman. City staff, we have City Elisa Tinty, Engineer John Schulteis, Comptroller John Toohey, Corp Council Dan Gardenstein, and City Assessor Dan Baker. Thank you for your patience during these difficult times. And on behalf of the Common Council, I wish you and your family the floor over to Chair Alderman Doug Coop.
Okay, thank you, President Shutt. We've had some late submissions, so let me just kind of summarize the agenda that I have, and I hope it's complete. There are five items. One, approval of the city's 2021 sewer fund transfer that John Toohey can walk us through. Number two is the North Street involving John Schulteis, city engineer. There are two items from the corporate council, one of which requests for an executive session. The other one is for a sale of 40 Conley Street. And fifth is a budget transfer of $7,100 from wastewater treatment plant, which by my omission was not acted upon last month. So we'd like to get that through so we can vote on tomorrow night. So moving back, the first item is the approval of the city's 2021 sewer fund budget. And John Toohey, the backup came with this communication is from the water department involving unpaid water charges and sewer totals. And I'm not, that's really not the 2021 sewer fund budget. So I'm a little bit confused by this. Can you clarify that?
Sure, Doug. Yeah, that's not really an accurate description of what that communication is. What the actual communication is the annual re-levy of unpaid water and sewer charges onto the 2021 city tax bills. A similar communication comes over from the water department every year. And the Common Council really authorize the re-levy.
So we're really being asked to opine and act upon the water department's assessment of unpaid water and sewer charges. Is that correct?
Onto the 2021 bills, correct? Tax bills.
Okay. So I don't have I have the figures, $339,117 for unpaid water charges and $429,539 for unpaid sewer totals. But I don't have a committee report defining those things.
If you want, Doug, I can do one up for the water department and send it over to you.
Okay. Are you going to send it to the committee or what?
Yeah, I'll send it to the whole committee. But essentially what you're asking for is someone to make a motion to authorize the re-levy of water and sewer charges totaling $782,600.63 onto the city's 2021 tax bills.
All right. So if you can send that to us, then we can ask for a motion and perhaps vote on it.
Why can't we ask for a motion now? He just read what the committee report is. So he just read what it is. So all you have to do is ask for a motion in a second. You do all that and then.
Hold it, Tony. I'm trying to. Are you sending it, John?
Yep, I just have to write it up.
Okay, just a moment. I don't see it yet.
No, I still have to write it, Doug. If you want someone to make that motion, they can make the motion. And
sure. So we're asking for a motion to levy unpaid water charges of $339,117.35 and to levy unpaid sewer totals of $429,539.37. I've lost video here.
I don't, Doug, it's Michelle. There's fees involved on top of that, so the totals are higher. If you look at the letter in the packet.
I've lost video here.
Doug, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
All right, Michelle just had a question saying that there was, well, Michelle, can you just repeat that?
Doug, if you have your packet for tonight, there's a letter from Judy Hanson laying out the charges the charges you stated were fees, administrative fees. So the grand total for sewer and water to be levied by the city of Kingston would be $782,600.63.
That's right. That's the total charges for sewer and water.
Right.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we adopt that.
Okay, motion by Michelle. A second. Again, I don't have video, so identify yourself.
Rennie has his hand up.
Who?
Rennie?
Okay.
I second.
Rennie seconds. Is there all in favor?
Aye.
I am one. Can anyone count the votes?
Yeah, Rennie is an aye, Steve is an aye, Doug is an aye, Tony is an aye. So that's
5-0. Okay. I'm still trying to get back on video. I don't know what the problem is here.
We
There
can see you.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Doug.
Okay. The next item is from engineering regarding the finding of the length of the North Street. John, you want to bring us up to date on that? John Schultheis?
Good evening, Chairman. members of the committee. This is a follow-up to the process that we've been going on, I think, since about September now, going through the steps to have a finding that the section of North Street is surplus and should be vacated. The city should give up its property interests in this section of North Street. If you recall, a public hearing was held in the beginning of November, and at that time, I think there was only one speaker from the public, and that was the requester from Scenic Hudson, which is also doing business as Corey Waters, speaking in favor of the request. There was a public comment period as well, during which time the public had the opportunity to provide their comments on this proposal. And no comments from the public were received during that time. So tonight we are here asking for the the Common Council to approve this. I believe this will be the last step to approve the finding that the street is surplus and authorize the sale. Of course, this project is related to the Empire State Trail and the Hudson River Brickyard Trail, which is now under construction and nearly done. So as part of this transaction, we also we expect to receive back from Corey Waters an easement covering the route of the trail in its constructed position. So that's a brief overview. I'm available for questions, and I know other staff members are also on the phone, along with representatives from Scenic Hudson and from, I believe, the Palisades Interstate Park Commission are also here for your questions. So thank you, and let me know any questions. Thank you.
Steve Shabbat. Steve Shabbat.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks, John. I think this is a really good use of this property down there. As I said, I really can't envision us using this for any purpose whatsoever. I mean, I think this is a good idea. I know it's really not a topic for tonight, but at some point, I want to bring parking for the trail, so that we can attract some business down there. I know for the trail, the parking is out in the town of Ulster as it stands right now, but I think there is enough property down there that we really have to address it and make sure some of this business that we're going to attract is going to stay within our city limits and within the Rondout area down there. I know it's really not part of the deal, but I'm certainly in favor of turning the property over. I think.
Thank you, Steve. John, can you comment? Sue Cahill was tasked with looking into certain aspects of this. Can you kind of summarize what they were? She sent out a very complete email on this, but it might be helpful to the committee if you could summarize what she found out.
Yeah, so the city planner is tasked with determining if there are any current or future uses of the right-of-way, and you can read her memo to that effect. So her memo asks the basic questions, the three basic questions that are presented there. Do you see any need for the city of Kingston to retain any or all of this present street right-of-way? Question 2, are you aware of any future use which would require an easement or use of an easement to successfully complete an installation? And question 3, are there any issues of access or maintenance for either existing or proposed utilities that will need to be accommodated? And you can, if you've read through her memo, you see a thorough discussion of those questions.
Okay, I would ask if Heather or Matt Shook or Pam Richardson have anything they want to add to this discussion to this point. Heather?
Hi there.
Thank
Good
you.
evening. Good evening, Alderwoman, President Schott. Thank you for letting us participate tonight, and we're also be happy to hand off my answer to Matt Shook as well. So I guess just to respond to the current questions that were brought up, certainly we see the permanent easement as a benefit that allows great access, recreational access along the shoreline of the Hudson River. That the right of way is still within upland areas. So this new easement will really expand upon the public's ability to access the shoreline within the city boundary. The easement itself will also allow, it's not just a corridor, it's also shaped to allow for future overlooks to be developed and additional amenities to be in place or could be placed in the future. And of course, the design of the trail construction was anticipated a need for vehicle access or emergency access. So there is that ability to sustain vehicle access in that regard. And I guess the request also considers the alignment of the trail when it was first laid out just before construction, that it's actually protective of sections of North Street that have now become streams or wetlands and or otherwise unusable. So to that regard, this easement actually allows protection of those areas that are now unique and make up a whole complexity of ecological and habit benefits to the site as a whole. So in that regard, they can now be protected with the abandonment and when there's no further development required for those areas. So, and also to Alderman Shabbat's question, we certainly want to, at this moment, this is going to be the first improvement to that property in decades. And in speaking with Green Line members a few weeks ago, it was determined that we would really promote Kingston Point Beach as kind of the trail and the main access point, even though there is a constructed parking lot at the north end. That wouldn't be promoted as much as the parking or at all. And instead, the parking at the Kingston Point Beach area would be promoted as the access point, and which would then draw attention from visitors, regional and local, through Kingston and through the Rondout area, and attracting that business that's desirable. And certainly for future phases, as we evaluate all the conditions on the site, all the access points for future phases of the larger park and the larger site, we would certainly be in step with as much as Scenic Hudson can be, with coordination and collaboration with all the stakeholders and the community at large to be a part of that process. So that answers some questions. I'll defer to Matt Shook for kind of any additional comments he may have at this time.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Matt?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to speak with you tonight. Since I haven't been at one of these meetings, I work with the Palisades Interstate Park Commission, and we are an affiliated, agency with New York State Parks that will be the owner of the park once it comes into state hands. And we've been working closely with Scenic Hudson and with Mayor Noble to, make the first plans to figure out what we're going to do here. And one of the first things that we need to do before we move forward in any way is to figure out a management and maintenance agreement with the city of Kingston for the Empire State Trail. So, in terms of the access to the trail for maintenance, we're going to be figuring all those details out. So there's going to be opportunities for the city before anything really gets done to put in their, input and make sure that we know what you need there. And we do that a lot with our neighbors and with our partners. So, if there's questions or if there are issues that come up, please feel free to send them our way so that we know them beforehand and can build that in. The other thing I wanted to say is that this is the very, very beginning of planning for this park, and we anticipate a very limited, opening at the beginning. We had intended to do more, but with the Bond Act and with COVID, with everything being as it is, the budget, there's just not funding at the moment to do very much on that site. So we do intend to open it and keep it open to the public and work with our partners to make sure that it is open. But, there is going to be, again, ample opportunity to discuss where parking should go, where access should go, how the best way into the park is going to be over time as we develop the park out, more fully. So I just wanted to make sure that, we expressed, how important we feel that the relationship with Kingston is going to be at this park. We have managed the Senate House there for a long time. I know that, our staff has always, said how helpful and good that relationship has been. And because it's so far away from many of our properties, I think even more so at this site, it's going to be really important that we work together to make it, as good a park and as, accessible and inclusive as it possibly can be. So I'll leave it there and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you to Matt and to Heather. Michelle Hirsch.
Hi, this is Alderwoman Hirsch. Thank you, Heather and Matt, for being here tonight. I must say I'm excited about the project, especially if this trail can be open during the winter. I think it's really important for people to get outside this winter. But I think the question is, because it's a finance meeting and we're, abandoning the street, what is the value of the street? Which is not something you guys can answer, but, Daniel Baker, he is our assessment person.
Dan? Was that a question addressed to Dan, Michelle?
Yes, to Dan.
Baker? You're muted, Dan.
My apologies.
Okay.
So I submitted to Chairman Coop, President Shaw, my valuation report, which has a I believe November 12th valuation date on it.
Yeah, I did forward it to the whole council, so it'll be in your emails. I sent it out last week.
I can resend it if you would like.
Are you saying, Dan, there's a document that we should have before we can vote tonight?
I sent out per the code, it asked the assessor to determine a value of the property under certain protocols, and I submitted that to you. If anyone doesn't have it up, I can email it right now.
Okay, I just found it. So, but it wasn't in the packet. So.
Yeah, it's not in the packet. Is that a document we need, Dan, in order to vote on this?
I think it's something you definitely should consider. What we've.
What? It's definitely something you can consider.
when you're taking your vote. What we found is that there is a value to the street, and there also is a value to that easement we are going to be receiving back. And we think that they have a very similar exchange value. And the numbers do back that up.
But the committee report I have from you, John Schulteis, engineering, says the estimated financial impact is 0. So do we need this document at the present time?
The document is something that the process calls for between the city assessor and the city planner had to provide reports, which have been forwarded. Dan included Doug, you on the original, and then I forwarded to whoever wasn't on that original. So it's definitely something that the council, the committee and the council should be aware of and look through. It's, part of the league to take.
So can you send this to the alderman, Dan?
Sure. Andrea, can I resend it to you? And then maybe you can re-forward it on, because I don't have...
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Or I could actually just find it too.
It'd probably just be easier if I just send it here again. It is a large file. Just see here what I can find.
I got it, Dan.
Okay. And Doug, to Andrea's point, this document is called for in the code. It's just part of the process, just like Sue's determination is, and John's involvement. The code, the 355 in the city code, section 61, calls for all of us to participate, and we have certain assignments during this liquidation process of a city street. And we fulfilled those, and that's what that document is for.
Okay.
My apologies. I just want to say that it was a holiday weekend and this didn't get sent to us till Friday. So
No problem.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Andrew, you are sending this to us now?
I already sent it.
It's a large file, so it may take a moment.
Yeah.
Andrea, this is Rita Worthington. Can you hear me?
Rita, yes, we hear you.
Okay, my apologies. I'm on the road driving. That's why I'm not on camera. But that report, are you sending that to all of the older folk, or are you just sending that to the committee members?
I sent it to the full council.
Okay, and because I can't look at it because I'm driving, is that something, the value, can we make that audible, or we cannot, or is that just for us to look at ourselves?
Sure. I came up with a value of $250,000. It's roughly a 6-acre parcel.
250,000, did you say?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
250,000?
Correct, Doug.
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
Ready? Question ready?
Yes. So, Dan, you were saying that then there would be a concomitant value of the easement. And if I read your report right, you said you wouldn't necessarily be able to quantify that. Is that the same thing as the value of the public use, or are those two different numbers?
Those are two different items. two different ideas. The easement itself, there is an appraisal that is out there that the Corey Waters and Scenic Hudson has produced from an appraiser that talks about the value of that easement. He does come up with the fee simple value of the underlying property of that easement we would be receiving in exchange of $27,726 an acre. That's a 9.06 acre easement. With that, there's something called an easement to fee simple ratio. And Mr. Dewan, who wrote the appraisal, he's valuing that easement in a different time frame than what I'm valuing the future use of the street. So the number is a little bit different, but when you use an easement to value fee simple ratio of what I feel is appropriate, about 10% reduction and 90% fee simple easement to fee simple ratio, you come up with about $24,953 an acre for the proposed trail easement. You add a market adjustment, which Mr. Dewan was unable to do because his appraisal is from a prior time frame, and you come up with an equal amount of $250,000. And I can send you my my notes on that. I'll send those to Andrea, and she can forward those on.
Is that then the basis for the zero financial impact in the committee report?
I think that's where, when John is filling that out, we had discussions of, hey, he asked, where I was in the process, and we went through the code, was looked at what 355-61 talks about, and I believe so, but I believe he can verify that.
Michelle? And followed by Steve.
Thank you.
Michelle,
So,
go ahead.
Dan, was there any talk about the possibility, I know that the bond for the state to possibly buy the property then from Scenic Hudson, was put on hold due to the pandemic this year. Is there talk about the city being reimbursed later, or possibly for this property if the state were to purchase the property?
That discussion was not had. We were talking about what we needed to do in the very near future, what to respond to the request of Corey Waters to sell that the road, and then also respond to our need, which was to retain the permanent easement of the new trail.
Okay, thank you.
Andrea, have you sent that? I don't have it yet. You're muted. You're muted, Andrea.
I did say I sent it. I did send it. It's just a large file, so it will take a second.
Steve Chabot, followed by Patrick O'Reilly.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Unless the value of this property is astronomical, that we just couldn't part with it. I really think it's a moot point. I mean, this is a piece of property. Again, I cannot envision that we could ever use it for anything. So I think putting it to a better purpose is for the benefit of the city. I think this is really going to attract a lot of people to our area, and this is what we do. This is, we attract people to Kingston. That's what we're good at. This is just another piece in the puzzle here. And, I think it would be silly for us to hold on a piece of property that really has no value to us. It has, I guess it's going to offset with the property we're going to get back. But, even that, I think this is a better use for it. It's going to be good for the area, both financially and, for people to just get out. It's going to make people feel good to have something like this. As Michelle said, someplace to go even in the winter. You can go out and walk. We're building a good basis of things for people to do, and this is what's attracting people to Kingston. I know some people don't think that's such a great idea. I do. I love to see people here. I love to see people coming here because we have attractions like this. It's a good thing. People want to settle here now. They want to bring their families, and I hear it all the time. I have a lot of people on my street now, and they talk about it all the time, that there is so much to do here and they love it here. And that's why they came. They did their homework here. This is another thing. And we had this discussion recently about the piece of property up by Elmendorf Street. It's of no use to us. So why hang on to it? I'm in favor of this. I think it's a good idea. I mean, I think we'll be well served by doing this.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Patrick O'Reilly, followed by Michelle, followed by Tony Davis. Patrick.
Hi, Patrick O'Reilly. Heather and Matt, thanks for coming tonight. My question is...
Patrick, can't hear you.
My question, can you hear me now? My question is, access to the trail. If you park, Heather had mentioned parking in the Kingston Point parking lot. Will they have to walk all the way back out to the street and around, or is there access across the property there? I thought it was a privately owned property between Kingston Point and this property. Can you tell me how people from Kingston Point are going to access the trail?
Sure, I can answer that, and I think John might also have a answer too. I saw his hand up. When I was attending the Green Line meeting on a few weeks ago, the owner of the hut and brickyard, the private property, they did offer, they will be part of the daily gate opening and closing. So they've allowed pedestrians to utilize a brick trail, I'm sorry, not brick, a mulch path trail, so that pedestrians would not have to be walking along the road, but they can, along Delaware Avenue, but they could cut through from Kingston Point Beach to the segment of North Street that's north of Delaware Avenue, and then walk along and then through the hut and brickyard property.
Yeah, this is John. Just to add to that, that's correct. The owner of the hut and brickyard will open that pedestrian gate daily from dawn to dusk, is our understanding. 365 days a year, and that's consistent with other parts of the Empire State Trail nearby that are only open daylight hours.
And we have some kind of guarantee of that, an easement. What do we have for that? Guaranteed that they don't get upset and just close the gates?
Yeah. No, well, North Street is a public street there, even though it does have that privately owned gate on it currently. We are in the process of signing an MOA, Memorandum of Understanding, with the Hutton operators about their responsibilities for opening and closing that gate. And I think one of the conditions will be that if they fail to do so, the city will then have the right to open that gate at any time, which we currently already have for our purposes.
John, I'm not talking about the gate. I'm talking about the path from Kingston Point to.
Oh, the
That's the one I'm concerned about.
the small mulch path.
Yeah, how is that going to be open and closed? Do we have any guarantees? Is there any kind of easement?
There is not an easement today. It exists informally. I think it's on a list of items to be formalized.
What do you mean by formalized?
But under formalizing could involve dedicating an easement to the public over that area, so that the rights to use it are always there.
But we're not sure that's going to happen.
I'm not aware of a specific timeline, but it is an objective.
So it's an objective, huh? So we don't know if we really have access to that trail, except to walk all the way around, which is about probably half a mile or so, would you say?
The mulch path might save you a quarter mile to a half a mile of walking along Delaware.
Along the street.
Yeah.
And then down north. Yeah. I think we need to think about that, everyone, before we vote.
Michelle, you're next.
I just wanted to say, just in response to Alderman Shabbat, yes, I agree that this is, a great project. It's going to bring people here. My asking the value of it is not, a negative towards the project. It's just that, this is not our street to just give away, without letting the public know what the value is. So that's all I'm just asking. Thank you.
Tony
Davis here. Two things. First off, people are already walking on that roadway back and forth from the Kingston Point in that neighborhood as they visit the ball field, as they visit Rotary Park, as they visit the Kingston Point. And so, walking on that road hasn't been a concern at any other point. Secondly, as Steve has mentioned, we talked about this several years ago, when it was some people voicing their concerns about redoing the old railroad trails. And we had these questions. And I'm going to say what I said then. We're using old infrastructure that we have here that is sitting there, and we're revising, we're reinventing these old infrastructures that we've had, or that's sitting and hasn't been dormant for years and years and years. And we're coming and they're going to be used vitally. We're going to have a purpose for them. It's like in railroad tracks. People are like, oh, it's going to be a problem. People are utilizing them. They're utilizing them. People are walking on these trails all the time, biking on these trails. It's going to be the same thing with this old infrastructure that is sitting there that we have no use for. So why not think and revitalize this, and let's get a purpose for it. And instead of just having it sit there that hasn't been used for years and years and years. So I'm going to be a yes vote on this.
Steve Shabbat. Steve, followed by Dan.
I know. Yeah, John, I know John can't, give a firm answer on coming up with a guarantee. I know that's impossible, that the owners of the Brickyard are going to let us use their property for access to the trail, but I've dealt with them. The city has dealt with them. If they have said they're going to do it, I see no reason that they'll turn us away. I mean, this is going to be good for them. I mean, this is really going to help their business. I can't imagine they would say, we don't want this now. This is going to be good for them. They've worked with the city already. I would certainly, put my faith that this is, we're going to get a positive response from them, formally, as John says, about using access over their property. You know, I mean, I feel confident enough that it's not going to change my vote because we don't have it formally. I think the fact that they have said it is good enough for me at this point. Yes, things could change, but you know, I really don't think so based on the dealings we've had with them down there. So, you know, again, you know, I'll be voting for it.
Yeah. Ready, Scott Childress?
Yeah, I would like to second what Tony Davis was saying. We've got this asset sitting there, but it's not being used, and transferring it because of the rough equivalence of value, it ends up costing us nothing. This isn't a tax issue either. So, you know, the other issues relating to accessibility are things that we can take up later. They're a separate issue. The owners of the Hutton Brickyards are not party to this agreement. So I think it's time for us to move forward with this.
Are there other questions? I would just summarize, if I could, Steve, I'll come to you next. The letter from Dan Baker, which Andrea just sent out, he summarizes it in one statement. The value of the easement the city is receiving is equal to the value of the street and real property that is transferring to Quarry Waters LLC. And that's been dimensioned at $250,000. So these are your words, John. I hope I've represented them correctly. Steve Shabbat? Steve?
Yeah, I'm ready to make a motion on this.
Okay, well, let me read the committee report, okay? I will read the committee report from engineering.
Fine.
It reads, adopting a finding that the length of North Street is surplus property and authorizing the mayor to negotiate sale of this street, approximately 6 acres of land, to Quarry Waters LLC or their successor in title, in exchange for a public trail access easement over the alignment of the Hudson River Brickyard Trail to be granted to the city by Quarry Waters LLC or their successor in title. So there's a motion. Steve, Steve, are you making a motion? Okay. And a second, Rennie, Scott Childress. Okay, I call for a vote. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. The vote is 5-0 in favor, so the resolution passes. So thank you, Matt and Heather and Dan and John for being with us this evening. Okay?
Thank you so much.
We can.
Alderman, I'm sorry to interrupt. We appreciate your time and consideration of our requests. Thank you so much for your decision tonight.
Yep, we look forward to working with you more.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Heather and Matt. Okay, I'd like to move now to a budgetary transfer from wastewater treatment facility that unfortunately I neglected to bring forward last month. It's a budgetary transfer of $7,100 from the pump station regular pay to various facilities within parks. $7,150. I ask for a motion on this. Rennie? A second? Steve Shabbat? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 5, 0. Okay, so we come now to the last two items, which involve Kevin Bryant. Why don't we deal with the one issue that, before we go into executive session, 40 Conde Street. Do you want to brief us on that, Kevin?
Yeah, so basically, at one point in time, when the council transferred properties, surplus properties, they would put in additional restrictions in the deed, basically saying that once the property is going to be transferred, it would require city approval. And so now this is just a follow-up to that.
Any comments, questions? So the Corporation Council is asking to authorize the release of restrictions in the deed for 40 Conde Street requiring that the property cannot be sold in the future without common council consent. I ask for a motion. Okay, Michelle Hirsch. Second by Steve Shabbat. A third for Rennie Scott Childers. Okay. All in favor? Signify, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. And unless I'm mistaken, the only remaining agenda item is a request from the Corporation Council for an executive session.
Doug, there is a matter, Luther versus the City of Kingston, I'd like to discuss with the council in executive session for settlement purposes.
Okay, can someone can make a motion to this?
Motion that we move to attorney-client session.
Okay, hold on just a moment here. Okay, motion for attorney-client session.
Doug, that's a motion for executive session.
Executive session. And a second, Steve Shabbat. All in favor? Steve, okay, 5-0. Okay, I think we can move to executive session.
I have the number. I already texted it to you with the access code. Just make sure you turn off your camera. Make sure you turn off your microphone. If you have any problems, text or call me.
Doug, you need to turn off your mic. Doug, turn off your camera, too.
Doug, you have to turn it, okay.
Okay, are we all here? John, John too, are you with us?
Yes, hi, Dutch.
Okay. All right. So, Kevin, you want to give the recommendation again, and then we can ask for a motion? You're muted.
Sorry about that. I am recommending to the council that they approve a settlement amount in the amount of $20,000 in the Luther versus City of Kingston personal injury action. So the committee report would read: approve proposed settlement of the Luther versus City of Kingston personal injury action in the amount of $20,000, and authorize the execution of any and all documents necessary to effect said settlement. I'm sorry, to effectuate said settlement.
Okay. Steve, are you making the motion? Steve Schaub, is that a motion or a question? You're muted.
That's a motion.
Okay, motion by Steve Schaub, second, Michelle Hirsch. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Michelle, you made the motion, so I'm counting you as a yes vote. 5-0. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. There being no other agenda items, I think we could have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Rennie to adjourn.
Andrea, is there another
Michelle,
link for the
second.
caucus?
All in favor of adjournment?
Andrea, is another link for
We are
caucus?
adjourned. 5-0. And I think we can now roll into the caucus. Angie, we just stay where we are?
This is the link that we advertised for caucus.
The same one, okay, all right.
Live stream one. I'm going to do the speech again just so that when it's spliced for the website,
Okay,
hear it. I'll
So
talk.
we just stay where we are.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. We are adjourned.
I'm going to officially start this. So if anybody needs to take a 30-second break, go for it. But Rennie, you want me to dive in? All right. Thank you for joining the City of Kingston's Common Council at our monthly caucus meeting. Today is Monday, November 30th. My name is Shot, the council president and organizer for our virtual meetings. Before we begin, we would like to go over a few guidelines to help us navigate this system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. That members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. As organizer, I reserve the right to mute anyone who unmutes. Council members, city staff will control their own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background. If the council member or staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hands. The chairperson will call on them before they speak by stating their name clearly for our audio listeners. All of our meetings are recorded, and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website. Although we will not have public speaking tonight, you can sign up to speak at tomorrow's council meeting by emailing Elisa Tinty by 12 p.m. or by writing written comments at the email address emtinty@kingston-ny, or by dropping comments off at the drop box located outside the side doors, City Hall. Send a text message to the following number, 845-594-6. As the organizer, I reserve the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have in attendance the chair, majority leader, Alderman Rennie Scott Children, council members, Alderwoman Rita Worthington, Alderman Steve Shabbat, Alderman Doug Coop, Alderman Jeffrey Ventura Morel, Alderman Patrick Alderman. City staff, we have Clerk Elisa, Comptroller John, Corp Counsel Kevin Bryant, Corp Counsel Dan Gardenstein, and City Assessor Dan Baker. Thank you for your, and I now turn the floor over to Chair Rennie Scott Childress.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our delayed start here. We got a lot of work done in our previous meeting. We've got a lot on the docket for tomorrow night. Most of it is some fairly rote stuff, but we will make sure that we get clear on the difference. Much of it has to do with the budget and various issues. So without further ado, let's get started. The first item of business is a resolution regarding the transfer in the Parks and Recreation Department in the amount of $148,322. Doug, you want to give us background here?
Yeah, this is a transfer from the Recreation Fee Reserve Trust Fund per resolution made in July of number 119. So it's the transfer from the trust fund into construction materials and supplies. So the financial impact is zero.
Excellent. So anybody got questions, issues, concerns, enthusiasms? Getting our park in fine order here, parks general in fine order. All right. Resolution 182 is another transfer in Parks and Recreation in the amount of $75,000.
Also from the same resolution number 119 in July, $75,000 from the trust fund into construction materials and supplies. There's zero financial impact.
All right. Any questions, concerns, issues relating to this one? All right. Sorry, I'm just trying to get some things in order here. Following that is Resolution 183, authorizing the approval to enter into a stipulation of settlement, correcting and reducing 2019 and 2020 assessment rolls for this piece of property.
This was on this, along with the next two resolutions, are recommendations from the assessor. This deals with the negotiation with Key Bank for a reduction in the assessment. There was no adjustment made in 2019, but in 2020, there's a reduction from approximately 1,000,003 to 1,000,001. The actual amount is a reduction of $184,500. This is at the recommendation of the assessor, Dan Baker. Any other questions? I think Dan can respond to them.
All right. Yeah, the next two are both the same issue there. So does anybody have any questions or concerns about any of these three settlements? We're good on all three? All right, very good. I hit the wrong button. So we'll move on then to 186, another transfer in the Parks and Recreation Department, this one for $32,910. Doug, back to you again.
Yeah, it's a transfer from, seasonal employees, playground seasonal employees, and adult seasonal employees into about 10 different accounts for parks. Overtime pay, equipment, vehicle maintenance, Hodge Center Electric.
Can I just ask one thing?
Yep.
I'm sorry. If these transfers are zero financial impact,
Yes.
Can we just move through them? I don't see the thing that we have to go through reading it all, et cetera. It's a zero impact. This states a zero impact. That this to move this along. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm good with that. Move on to 187, resolution of the Common Council. This is also to cover shortfalls. And this one appears to also be zero impact, though it doesn't say so in the committee report. Am I right?
Yeah, this is also a transfer, $59,365 with zero financial impact.
All right. 188, transfer in the wastewater treatment plant.
$12,000. No financial impact.
All right. So I'll keep going through. If anybody wants to talk about any of these, though, give me a shout. Okay. I think Tony's right. 189, transfer another in the wastewater treatment plant for $7,100. Again, no financial impact, I believe.
Yes.
It would be nice if we got those, that zero put in there on the line for estimated financial impact. 190.
Yeah, zero financial impact.
So 190 also is zero financial impact in the police department.
Police department, yep.
Okay, getting some budget in line there. All right. Next one is 191, transfer in the police department for $375,000 to cover the expense of fixed mounted license plate reader. This one also came to finance. This one, I think, bears some discussion because of the grants associated with it.
Yeah, the grants are, the total amount for the major equipment line is $375,000, of which $225,000 is to come from the grants, New York State grants. The financial impact is from contingency of $150,000. Michelle, I think, has a comment on this.
Yes, Michelle.
So at this point, we have to front the whole 375 until we are reimbursed. Is that correct?
That's not quite how I understand it. It's that we're putting the money aside for the purchase, and the chief will be looking into seeing what the cost is in terms of actual unit cost, and then he'll be thinking that through and seeing what's the maximum he can purchase with the amount.
Correct, but we were told in finance that it would come out of contingency. So what is the amount that's going to come out of our contingency?
$150,000.
So he's going to wait until the money comes in from the grant?
I do not remember him making a promise along those lines.
Okay, so can we ask, is John Toohey still on?
Yes. Or at
So
least
what is the
boxes.
current? Hi, John. What is our current contingency balance, please?
No, give me 1 minute.
Thank you.
Sure.
I thought we were still up in the several hundreds of thousands of dollars, but
We're currently at 671,038.
and then the other question that I have that Michelle's question raises in my mind is that was not, I think, made clear in the discussion about whether or not the chief would purchase, using $375,000, and then would we be reimbursed by the New York State grants, or will we have that money in hand first?
I don't know all the particulars of this grant running, but the vast majority of grants, nearly every grant, particularly the state grants, are on a reimbursement basis, which would normally require the city to outlay the cash first and then get reimbursed.
Okay, so we don't foresee any the further large draws on that $600 and something thousand.
Before the end
paid
of the
out.
year,
In other words, we'll paid out the
no,
before the end of the year.
not
Okay.
that I'm aware of. As we move forward towards the end of the year, I think we should have a lot of accounts balanced. There might be some small departments that have some overages, but I can't think of anything significant at this time.
All right. Thank you, Tony.
John, I mean, I know you don't know the specifics, all the specifics about this grant. And so, you know, with the financial situation this is a federal grant or a state grant?
State grant.
State. So, and if we were to find out, and if the state is going to pull back money for grants that they're awarding, I'm assuming the chief would know that before he went out and purchased it. If we have to front this money, $375, I'm assuming he would know before he went and purchased them that the state is going to say we can't give you any funding this year. I'm not sure how that works.
Well, typically on any of these grants, that there would be a grant contract before we move forward with spending money. But once again, you know, with any of the state grants, you'd have to look at the actual language in that grant contract and whether or not the state could withhold funds pending, you know, if there's cash flow issues. Whether or not the state could hold funds if funding was not available to them. I think it's unlikely, Tony, that the state would walk away from the contract midstream, but you know, with any of these contracts, you have to look at the language, and there's a possibility.
So that's something that the chief whoever wrote the grant that has that wording or that contract in front of him.
You would have to, yeah. Well, I don't know whether or not they even have the contract in front of them. I've seen some state contracts that have that language. Once again, you know, the state honors these contracts. However, if there's a shortfall of funding, they have the ability to modify. We have no word that that's going to happen, but sure, on some of these contracts, it's always a possibility to concern. I don't think it's likely.
I wonder, Doug, would you be open to speaking either with the chief or with Julie Noble? I understand she's the person who obtained the grant. Would you be willing to speak to them before council meeting tomorrow to ensure that the grant is certain?
Yes, I will do that.
Okay. Because I think that is concerning. We don't want to pay out $375,000.
I will do that, but I would think in the worst case, if we placed an order for the major equipment and then the state grant fell through, the most exposure we would be some type of a cancellation charge. But I will do that. Yeah. I'm not sure about the certainty. Well, maybe it's a discussion for in a general discussion, but absent of having the grant contract, I don't know that anyone can answer that. You know, you'd have to see what's in the grant contract and what that language states.
Right, but that's the thing is we understand that Julie Noble obtained the grant, but we don't know, you know, at what stage that is. Kevin gave us a thumbs up.
Okay.
The language of the grant, the way I see it is because of the department's budget, no matter what the language of the grant says, if they're withholding funds or holding back funds or not releasing funds due to the budget shortfall at the state level until we know for sure what's happening with federal relief, the contract is irrelevant until we have certainty through the State Department of Budget. So, caution here. That's all.
Andrew Schott.
The chief into this meeting, would you appreciate that?
Well, yeah. The thing is, though, I thought that it was Julie Noble who obtained the grant, so I don't know if the chief would know the particulars of the grant.
All right, well, I think I just got a text that he's coming, just to, if there is more questions. So,
well, if the chief is coming,
so
I guess that's more like a yell down the hall.
Actually, I had to drag him out of a barn, so just give me 1 minute. He's on his way down the driveway.
Oh, that's that smell of sheep. Okay.
Yes. 1 minute, please.
But yeah, I mean, this has been my experience on the council, that the normal process is that we spend and then we get reimbursed. And so we would not be on the hook for this.
This is not normal times. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and the State Department of Budget has already been withholding 20% of budgets, municipal budgets, and can hold back anything at any time right now while we are under executive order. So we're not under normal times. Thank you.
Patrick O'Reilly, while we're waiting for the chief.
I guess I'll wait for the chief. Thanks.
Okay. Tony Davis?
Yes, Tony Davis here. Yes. I guess what I was trying to try to say is that I guess, the Mayor Chief will be able to answer the question in regard to, and, would he go out and purchase this? So hopefully he has some answers for that. Would he go out and still purchase, and if he didn't think? Or my other question was, is this something that we could put off into, next year or something, when we might have a better picture of how the economy's doing? And that was going to be my other question to him. Does he need, I know he would need all the equipment, but is this something that we could pull off? Is there a time sense of a date for him to be able to do this for this grant?
It would seem to me that if the state grant fell through, in order for the KPD to make this procurement, they need a budgetary change, which obviously we would not approve.
Yeah. Plus, this is a question of, well, go ahead, Steve Shabbat.
Well, thank you for deferring there. I think as far as putting it off, I think the chief was asked quite explicitly, and I know I asked him the question, is he requesting this because of the current situation, which he responded affirmative to. So, he wants to put that to immediate use to address what's happening in the city, with shootings and, violence in the city. So, I would like to see this, come forward at this time. If we wait another year, we may be missing an opportunity, to help out with this situation.
Ready?
Yes.
This is Rita Worthington. So I'm going to agree with Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch. I'm on the fence with this anyway, because I'm not sure if we need more equipment for the police rather than using that money for other services. But if the chief cannot answer the question, if we're going to the details of the grant, I don't know if I'm going to be voting for this. I want to make sure that if we're going to be purchasing this equipment, that we are going to get reimbursed for it. And if we're not, I know the Coop said that it would just be a modification of the budget, but I'm not entirely sure of that. So I would like to have details on whether or not we're going to, in fact, get reimbursed for this. If not, I'm probably going to be a no on this.
All right.
All right, I'm on. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. She did drag me out of the barn, so
right.
I'm here now.
Well, keep the camera off, please.
Oh, absolutely. You don't want to see the way I'm covered in grease right now, so.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Chief. So we're looking at this request to take money out of contingency in order to purchase the license plate readers that we discussed in finance a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we've got some concern because, grants usually are reimbursements of money spent. And so there's concern that since we're in this financially precarious time, we're looking for a little more assurance than usual that this grant will definitely come through so that we're not left on the hook for something more than the $150,000 from contingency that we're looking for.
Right. So as far as I know, and I've asked Julie Noble to kind of weigh in on this. She might be trying to get on. From the grant perspective, we never had one that once was granted to us ever in anything we've ever done at the police department that they've ever not paid. The city is going to be into this for $150,000. The rest of it is being funded by that New York State grant. So as far as on the hook, I mean, truthfully, the grant, we will spend the money once everything is in place to buy it. We're still looking at the number of cameras, the locations, all that is still being in the works right now. It's still considered in the works.
Mm-hmm. Right, but the big question well, go ahead, Tony. Tony Davis has a question.
Well, so Chief, are you saying then, my question is, if we pay, we have to put out the $375, and is that something you're going to go right away and start to purchase these cameras, or are you going to wait for the grant to come there and to get that matching funds? I mean, I guess to get the rest of the $275 or what it might come to before you go out and purchase these cameras. Our question is that if the state, the economy is that the state could pull back money from from the grants that they're awarded, and as it's already been mentioned, and then the city would be responsible for. We would be on the hook for $375,000 if the state came back and said, "Well, we can't give you that matching funds or give you those funds for that grant." And my question is this something you need right away? Is this something that could be pushed off until we get a better picture of what the economy looks like in the early part of next year, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, as far as the state side of it, as far as the grant side of it, the money is essentially guaranteed. We've never applied, or I've been dealing with grants on this for a long time. The state has never put out the grant, awarded the grant, and then has turned around and said, we made a mistake. We're not doing that. Julie's calling right now. Okay, Julie's calling in right now.
Okay.
In essence, you have a handshake assurance, right? So that's as good as a contract in essence.
As we've done with all these grants, and back in 1996, and again, I believe in 1999, the city went for over $500,000 in police officers in the New York, in the U.S. Cops Fast Grant, and the city again put out that money and then was reimbursed. So the tactical grants we've applied for through the state, same thing. We've outlaid the money, and as soon as we show the purchase, we show that the equipment is in our possession, then the grant gets turned back. The grant gets repaid by the state. So we've never had any issues at all since it was awarded. That money is earmarked at the state or the federal level.
All right, Michelle Hirsch, and then I see caller 2. I'm assuming that's Julie. If it is, welcome, Julie. And if it's not, welcome, caller 2.
Hi, I just want to address Chief Tinty. I know that things have always worked the way they've worked, but we are not in normal times right now. And my concern is because I read the New York State Department of Budget 400 and something page report explaining how during an executive order, the state can withhold payments to any municipality at any time. That includes the cities, the towns, the villages, our school district. That includes any monies that have been promised for grants. I mean, they could just be held up for a while, but it will happen. It could possibly happen. These are not just normal, regular times. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Before going into the pandemic, the state had a $6 billion deficit. After the first wave of the pandemic, the state is in a $16 billion hole now. And now we're going into wave 2 of the pandemic. So the State Department of Budget has the authority to just withhold money or hold it back. And we do not, even having, a new president come in, we don't know what reimbursement will look like from the feds to the state level and how whole they will make us. That's all. It's just my concern. It's just not normal times. Thank you.
Let's see. Patrick, do you want to go first, or shall we put the question to Julie Noble first? Okay, Patrick will hold off. So, Julie?
Yes.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for coming tonight at the last second here.
No problem.
So our question is, we're looking at this request from KPD for $375,000 to cover the purchase of license plate readers. We're seeing, of course, that it would require $150,000 from contingency with the promise of a grant from New York State for $225,000. And as I'm sure you gathered from what Alderwoman Hirsch was saying just now, we've got some concerns that the state might, at the last minute, pull this money back and leave us in the lurch for some or all of this $225,000. So we're looking for some kind of assurance, some kind of sign that we're good with this money.
Well, can't speak on behalf of the state, but what I can say is that I had a call with them just today about the project, and they are pushing very aggressively for us to advance this. They're actually have been waiting on us for decision making, and we're ready. We were talking today about modifying my LED contract to have this be phase 2 as an extension to move this forward. There's many other projects on the state level and many other grants that have not come out at all. Regular grants that come out on an annual level, on an annual basis, that have not come out and been announced, and they're being cautious about that. But this one, they're certainly being aggressive on. I mean, I had a meeting with them today about it. So none of us can foresee what's going to happen in the future, but I can say what I know happened today, when I know it's been in communication with. I know that we've had meetings with them in the last few weeks. I know that we've had on-site meetings. We've looked at specific locations, and they are ready for us to be moving forward to be signing onto a contract. So that seems like security to me.
Okay, thank you, Steve Shabbat. Then Patrick O'Reilly.
Thanks, Rennie. This is for the chief. You still there, chief?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I don't want to speak for you, so I just want to, reiterate, what my memory tells me happened, when we spoke about this. Maybe that's not a good thing, but anyway, you were asked about this tool being used, or, whether it was requested at this particular time because of the events going on in the city, and trying to keep tabs on some of these people coming and going, shootings and whatnot. And I believe you replied in the affirmative that this was one of the reasons that you were seeking this at this time. So were this to be put off, do you think you would be missing a window of opportunity here? We would like to see this put to good use right away. I don't know if would putting it off, not be a good thing, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, as a result of the violence we've had, the shootings, I believe all of you reached out to me at some point and said, what can we do? We can't live in a city that people feel unsafe. Since we don't have, there's apprehension on the part of most residents to participate or to turn over information that they have through their own camera systems. This is a viable alternative. And when Julie mentioned that she could get this grant, $225,000 for an investment of $150 for a total of $375. Again, I'll use the same words I used last time. This is a no-brainer. And I understand that times are tough, but each and every one of you, including myself, have to answer for the public safety of this city. It was unprecedented, the level of violence that we've experienced. It's attributed to a number of factors. And the LPRs is one tool out there, is a very successful tool that can be used to make the city safer. Absolutely 100% agree with that. No one's going to change my mind. The statistics are there. I know there are some questions about its use. We can safeguard it any way you'd like, but I can tell you that the tool itself is instrumental in solving many, many crimes throughout the state and in this country because of the technology. And I think for us, it is a balance between the safety and security of the residents and also their privacy. The LPRs do not record personal information, just the vehicle information, and then we can use that to continue our investigation. So Steve, you're absolutely 100%. I think this is a golden opportunity for us. I can't thank Julie enough for putting the effort on this one. And it comes at a great time. So I understand you have to make the decision when it comes to financial stuff. But again, to me, we're getting $375 for $150,000 investment. It's a $40+ million budget. I don't see that there should be much discussion short of the implications of privacy, and we've already addressed those.
And if I could just speak to the timing for just a moment to dovetail off of the chief. The reason why we even are in the pool to be eligible for this is because of our commitment to the New York Power Authority to be working directly with them to retrofit all of our LED lighting. And the threshold that was determined based on the amount of lighting that we have. So the $375,000 cap was based on the threshold of our inventory of lights. And the timing is something that we can't just put off if we are to take advantage of this opportunity, because it would be an addendum or a second phase of the existing contract that we have. So this isn't eligible to any community. It's eligible to us because we are working with NYPA directly, and we already have a contract that is active. That current contract, which is now at substantial completion, the LED project, which is also what I spoke to them about today, we will be signing off on that by the end of the month. And so we will be extending that contract should this move forward.
You're muted, Rennie, you're mute.
Right. Starting to look like Newark Airport. So we've got Pat, then Tony, then Doug, then Michelle.
Thanks, Patrick O'Reilly. Chief, are most of the rising violence in our town, is most of that being committed in vehicles or from a vehicle?
Yes. Yeah, we can show at least in the majority of cases, the suspects are coming and going in a vehicle.
Good, thank you. Tony?
Well, yeah, and Julie, thanks for coming on. And Chief, thanks for coming on. If Julie is stating that, and she's the project manager for this particular grant here, if she's stating that she's had communication with them today, and from her conversation that this state is anxious in pushing this forward, and then I don't have a problem with that if that is what the conversation is, and that they are wanting Kingston to move forward with this, and then that's the indication to me that this money is going to be available. And again, all we can do is go by and their word, and if they're pushing this today, saying that they're just waiting for this PO if you want to, and so we can get this moving, and then then I have to be satisfied with that they're going to honor this $250 or whatever.
Great. Doug?
Yeah, I think the issue here is that people are worried about is the risk that the state may not come through with the grant. And even if there was a 10, 20, 30% risk that they're coming through, that in itself is no reason to vote this down. Because if we vote it down, then for damn sure we're not going to get the $225,000. The chief wants to have it. I think the probability of getting a grant is great. Let's go. Thank you.
All right. Michelle, then Steve.
Hi, Julia. It's Michelle. Thank you for your work on, getting this grant and getting it added to the contract. Did they give any indication as to how quickly they would, send us the money?
So they're not going to be sending us any money. So the vendors, what's going to happen is that we are going, Lieutenant Bonds and others met on site, reviewed locations, We've met with Kyle McIntosh, the IT director, to talk about specifics about the technology. And what happens is New York Power Authority has a subcontractor, Wendell, and Wendell is the same company that I've been working with for the last 2 years on the LED retrofit. They directly purchase the equipment from the vendor, and the vendor comes and installs the equipment, and then we pay. They invoice us, and then we will pay it. So basically, if they don't end up paying anything, we don't end up paying anything. So there's no risk to us. If there's no financial risk to us, if the state chooses to not move forward with this, which again, there's no indication whatsoever that they would. I had a call with them today, but they are going to be purchasing the materials directly through the vendor, and then we would be getting invoiced. So again, if they are not putting out any money, we're not putting out any money. They're matching whatever we would put in, or you could see it as we're matching whatever they put in. Basically, we would make an agreement. They would say, for $375,000, and this is what they're calculating right now. They've come to our sites. They've seen how many lanes it would cover. What directions we're looking at. What are our priorities? What are our top, X number of priorities for intersections? And they're going to come back to us with a solid number that says, for $375,000, this is how many intersections we can cover. This is the amount of equipment we can get you for this amount of money. And then we're going to sign off and say yes or no or whatever we want to say or negotiate with them. And then they're going to directly work with the vendor. So they're not giving us any money. We're going to see the equipment appear, and then we're going to be invoiced and pay the dividend of whatever we owe.
Great. Thank you. Steve Shabbat.
Thank you. Yeah, this is going to be my final thought. I hope. I think we're all big boys and girls here. We know anytime we deal with the state with a grant, there's always a possibility that something can go wrong. For a couple of years ago, there were big reports that we were not going to receive the big grant for Kinderland, and it was front page, and it didn't come to pass. I really can't think of too many instances where the state has reneged on something they have told us we're going to get. I know times are a little different now, but I really can't see holding back on what I consider a vital piece of equipment for the safety of this community. I'm willing to take the chance based on what Julie says, and the chief says that, they feel very confident that we're going to get this money. And as Julie says, even that we're not going to lose money even if it doesn't come through. So, and as somebody else said, if we don't vote yes, then there is no chance we're going to get any money. So, I'm ready to move forward on this. I think this is a great idea. It's a good opportunity. I would hate to miss it.
Don Tollerman.
I think that we're hearing a lot from our constituents about the need to combat the increasing violence. The chief speaks about this tool as a fantastic tool to help him do his job. So I say that because of the grant money and the timing, all things considered, we should buy the equipment that the chief has identified that he thinks will make a difference in doing his job.
Rennie, may I say something, please?
Sure, Rita, go ahead.
Thank you. Actually, Don gave me a great segue here. So, because I know we're all talking about the financial impact of this, but that's not my only concern. My concern is that I live in a ward where most of the people believe that they need to be kept safe from the police. While I don't believe that we should be getting more equipment handed over to the police. And I know the chief says that this is going to make things safer. And again, it's not so much what I believe, but I'm listening to my constituents. And I just believe that maybe some of these grants that we're going for, or some of these other funds that we have, can be put to use in some other services that's going to make our city safer. Don says that he's hearing from constituents that, this is going to be a good tool to make the city safe. I hear the direct opposite. So again, my concern is not so much financial. It's what my constituents are saying to me. So either way, I'm going to be a no on this. And so that's my general feeling about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Yeah, it seems to me that from what the chief is saying, that this is a tool of investigation rather than enforcement. So in that sense, this is, it seems to me that this offers the possibility for the police to do work that leads to resolution of crimes and might then have a great power to reduce the kinds of events that have been, front page news around the country. So let's see, Patrick, I believe you had your hand up.
Yeah, Patrick O'Reilly. Of course, a tool like this in the wrong hands is dangerous, like any tool. I guess we have to have faith that our police department is going to use this for good, and to help the violence in our city. I can, as a person who studied history, I can see how this could be used by a government to do horrible things to people. We have to hope that that's not done. We're a body here. We're a legislature. We're elected. We could always remove this from the police department if we needed to. We could say, okay, you guys are not using this properly. You're not using this tool properly, and we can remove it. So our system, our checks and balance system, kind of allows us to pull this back from the police. I believe I hope we have that ability. Can anybody speak on that? That we could, if the police department doesn't use this properly, we could remove it from them. Can we do that? I think we can. Andrea, do you have any thoughts on that? Or
Chief, while Andrea's getting, there we go. Andrea, go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, I think we could make that request to the chief to ask them to stop using it if we feel that really that would come from the mayor, just because the chief does work for the mayor. But he might be able to answer and maybe assure us right now.
Chief?
Yeah, so so no different than the firearms we carry on our belts, no different than the vehicles we travel from call to call. A steak knife can be used to hurt someone, or it can be used to cut a piece of meat to eat at dinner, right? So as far as the information gathered from the LPR, it is the least intrusive mechanism for investigative purposes. If I were to ask for cameras throughout the city, actual video cameras or surveillance cameras, I could see a large population of Kingston, number of residents upset about that request. They would be concerned about the privacy issues. But if you're tracking vehicle movement, and again, just to make sure everyone's clear, license plate and front or rear of the car, we're not even getting the cab of the vehicle. We don't know how many people are in it. This is just tracking the vehicle. So that information, as far as being used for investigative purposes, has helped us numerous times in other investigations. The problem we have in this city is we have very few of them. They already exist. They are up and around this city and in this county. They are up and around the state. They are in places you and I drive every day. So the information is being out there. We use a crime analysis center located in Orange County. Our information gets funneled directly to them, as does Poughkeepsie, as does Newburgh, as does Saugerties, as does all of the jurisdictions around here. They are all members of the Hudson Valley CAC. We're very lucky that we have that partnership, because when a vehicle commits a crime in Kingston and gets located down in Newburgh, the Newburgh police then can help us with that investigation. And I think that's important to keep track, that this tool itself is for investigations, as Rennie mentions. It's not an enforcement mechanism. It's an investigative mechanism.
All right. Let's see. Jeffrey, have you got anything to add here? Nope, still thinking. Patrick?
Is there, Chief, for this, is there any budget going forward? You're going to need any money for this on a year-to-year basis?
We're still trying to work that out right now with the vendor. There are some costs for maintenance. Normally the camera lifetimes are good between 3 and 5 years. We haven't had any issues with the ones we currently have right now. Our system is tied to the county system. So the server mechanism for it is maintained by the county. And that's essentially what we would be doing here, is buying the cameras and just attaching them to the current system that's in place. But we hope to have all those numbers worked out before we move forward with it.
All right. Anything else? All right. The way I see it right now, Doug, Tony, Steve, Don, and myself are definitely in favor. Rita is against. I still hear some questions, possibilities. I don't know, Michelle, do you have a stand now, or are you still waiting to make up your mind?
I just have still budgetary concerns. So I have a quick question, just as far as process procedure for Julie and the grant. Do we have to approve it before having all the answers so that they can go to contract?
What information are you looking for?
I'm sorry, Julie, I didn't hear you. So
Hello?
Does the finance committee have to have this approved in order for you to go to contract to do a matching grant?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's out of finance. This is actually, she has to have the common council's approval now, or it has to be common council approval.
Right, correct, sorry.
Yep.
I stand corrected, thank you.
Yep.
So Julie, if I was sorry, you said yes, right? You have to have this to be able to move ahead, right?
In order to move ahead with their one-for-one match, yes, I would need the council's approval
Thank
to
you.
allocate the money.
Yep. All right.
Yes,
so
I guess
then-
we'll find out tomorrow.
All right. Well, if anybody wants to change their mind, please let me know before council tomorrow night. All right. Okay, then we'll move on from that one. Thank you for a spirited discussion there.
Well, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you all for letting me run down from the barn. So I appreciate it. My apologies for being late.
Oh,
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
All right. Next item. 192. This is
192 is to meet payroll for cover overtime for the city zoning officer. And looking at the 2021, we already agreed that this is problematical, and we made changes to the budget for next year to reflect this. But this is, zero impact to cover a total of $3,390 to cover additional hours of work for the zoning enforcement officer. Zero impact.
all right. Everybody okay with that? Hearing no objections, we'll move on to 193. This is out of Laws and Rules, resolution supporting the return of adult inpatient behavioral health and detox units to Mary's Avenue campus. Jeffrey, can you fill us in on the details there?
I will actually defer to Alderwoman Hirsch on this. She made a great presentation at the Laws and Rules committee meeting about it.
All right.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It's just a supporting resolution, memorializing resolution, calling on the New York State Department of Health to deny an application that's been made by Westchester Medical Center to permanently remove our inpatient psychiatric beds and detox unit. At the start of COVID, we were informed that the beds would temporarily be moved over to Mid-Hudson Regional so that we could make room for COVID overflow for the hospital. And now we've been informed the beds would not be returning, and it's putting an undue stress and burden on our community and getting the appropriate treatment that they need. So we're just asking the Department of Health to deny any application. Thank you.
All right. Any questions about that? Everybody good with it? Hearing no objections to it, then we'll move on to Resolution 194. Capital projects. We're getting into the budget here. So we're looking at spending a total of $1,286,500 on various capital projects. I believe this reflects the removal of one item at finance, as well as 3 items that were removed from the original request from wastewater. Is that right, Doug?
That's correct. That's correct. The
All
next
right.
14 resolutions, by the way, are all budget related.
They're
This
all-
is 3. 194, 195, and 196 asked for $1,286,500 for the various capital items. And as Rennie already said, about 3 or 4 items were already deleted from this at the wrap-up committee. And the following resolutions are a bond ordinance and the actual adoption of the bond ordinance and the actual bond ordinance to support this.
All right, so everybody good with the 3 of those? Everybody okay with the capital plan as it is now set? All right, good. Then we will move on to 198. This is a change to the budget, removing the vacant because new project manager position in the grants management department. Everybody okay with that? That was the one.
Wait a minute, I think we skipped 197.
Skip 197, man.
I'm sorry, I thought that was part of the, I see what you're saying. Yes, okay, sorry. Recommending budget to increase part-time salaries and benefits in the zoning department. This was the result of Eric Kitchen detailing how much work he has to do. Doug, you want to say anything about it?
It still goes with 192, which has already been said.
Well, no, 192 was a budget transfer to cover expenditures this year. 197 is to cover expenditures next year. So we're actually putting into the budget so we don't have to do what we just did for this year. We're anticipating additional expenses, so we're putting it into the budget.
Right. So we've seen a large increase in the necessity for inspections by the zoning officer because of new construction, new renovations, a lot of movement there. So this is actually a good thing, a good sign for the city. All right, so everybody good with that one?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, then we're back to 198, adopting a change to the mayor's recommended budget. This is to remove the vacant because new project manager's position. This is what we did in order to free up money for other things, such as the increase in hours in the zoning department. Is everybody okay with this one?
No, I continue to be opposed to the removal of this position. I think it's necessary. We have so many projects coming forward, and we'll get more. This will enable us to get more, enable us to manage what we have, to get the receivables faster. I think it's false economy to remove this from the budget. But I've stated these positions in the wrap-up meeting. I continue to oppose the removal of this. I do understand that if this resolution to remove it would be defeated, then it sets in a domino effect because so many other resolutions were key to this. That is, the monies that were saved by removal of this position were applied to everything else. But we'd have to, if in fact this did was defeated, then a series of amendments would have to be proposed to balance this whole thing out. But anyway, I oppose it. Thank you.
Anybody else on this one? All right. I will note that we partially took care of that by adding hours in the engineering department. So we go from that one to 199. This is a change also to increase contingency by $10,000 for a potential common counsel attorney. Remember, we're building on precedent here. We've looked at this in a number of ways, and this would simply be a safety backstop in an instance where there was a disagreement between the executive, or an issue that was between the executive and the legislative. So anybody comments on this one?
Yes, I am also opposed to this resolution on the basis that the city code clearly spells out how the common counsel will be represented in the case of when legal counsel is required. So I oppose this also. Thank you.
Michelle Hirsch?
This doesn't go against what our charter says. It would be if there was a conflict, if there was an ethical conflict, and that the corporation counsel felt that they could not represent us, and then we would use the money, but they would still be our counsel. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Resolution 200. This is to move the senior account clerk. This is this the one that's in the housing department?
Yes.
From 69.95 to 69.89. Where's that, John?
That's in the housing department.
Yeah, housing back to I didn't realize. Oh, I guess we voted this down in committee, right?
Yes.
No, we approved this in the wrap-up committee.
Well,
No.
there was a motion and a second, so it does go to council floor, but it was a 1-4 vote.
Right.
I made
It was voted down. It was voted down. As Chairwoman and Schott said, it still had a first and a second. So it still has to come to the floor because the rest of the people who are not on finance have a chance to vote. It was voted down.
Right. So, Michelle, I'm sorry about our earlier conversation, but clearly it's here. I didn't think that through. Do you want to speak to this?
So I made a motion to keep the senior account clerk in the Office of Economic Development, the budget line where they currently are located. And that's actually the budget line where the Director of Housing Initiatives is currently in budget of economic development, but in the 2020 budget. And now in the 2021 budget, we're creating a whole new department to facilitate the land bank. But I don't believe that we were really aware that we were creating a whole new budget when we hired the head of the housing department initiatives. And as he told us in the City Hall budget meeting, he needed this second full-time position to carry out the list grant and what is outlined in the housing report. And I don't know that everybody's read the housing report and understands everything. And if that is, what we want to be doing next year.
So another possibility then, as you and I discussed earlier before tonight's meeting, the possibility would actually be to move both of those positions or keep them in community development. So, John Toohey, can I ask you a question here? If we put both of those positions instead of where they are currently in the budget, if we put them under community development, would that have any effect on the budget, or would that just be a question of who they report to?
If you move them both back to the 6989 department, from a total financial impact, it wouldn't have an impact. It could create some issues with who is overseeing that department or those budget lines, and who's responsible for, say, office supplies. Are they both drawing off the same accounts? And that, who has access to what? Because you're basically commingling them. You have two department head level positions, both reporting in the same department.
Okay, good. Thank you for that, Tony Davis.
Hey, John, I thought when we were doing a wrap up, I thought you said that, and they got partial funding from the land bank.
Yes.
So if they were to be moved back, they wouldn't receive that funding, right?
Well, if you have my concern is I wasn't sure what the purpose was for the move. If the employee is still working and doing land bank work, they would be eligible for getting reimbursed for the land bank. But if the intention, if the senior account clerk is no longer going to work for the housing director, that's a different story.
Kevin Bryant, can I ask you a question? If you're there. Calling Kevin Bryant. My understanding, I'm wondering here. I was speaking with Jackie DeSico about some other job positions, and I would wonder whether or not simply moving the line is something that would be in the purview of the Common Council. In other words, is it up to us to decide whether this position is where it is now or somewhere else, if we're not making a monetary change to it? So that's what I would be curious about. In theory, I have no real concern about moving this back underneath community development. And there would be a question, though, about the what's the ultimate purpose? What would be the advantage of doing that besides not creating a new department, as it were? So that's what I'm wondering about. Yes, Michelle Hirsch.
So it's not our community development. It would be moving it back to economic development, where both jobs currently are in the 2020 budget. Mm-hmm. And when we were looking at this hire for the head of the housing initiatives in March, we were told that this would be a hire for this year, and based on performance, we could decide whether or not we are going to budget it for 2021 based, on performance. So COVID did happen, so I don't feel like we have a lot of performance to evaluate here and to create a complete department. So I just feel like we should keep it in economic development for another year and give it the chance to see where things go.
So in essence, then Mandy Bruck would be the person who would decide how the senior account clerk would spend his or her time, as opposed to Michael Gilliard?
I don't know. How is it set up now? It's already set up. They're all in there on working in economic development right now. This is a brand new department that I don't know if anyone else was informed that we're going to have a housing department until a press release went out with a housing report.
Right, but I'm asking, how do you envision who reports to whom? if we kept it under economic development.
However, it's working now because it's already in economic development for 2020.
Except I believe is it a vacant position? Or we're moving this actual person?
They're in.
Right now, hey, Rennie, right now you have the senior account clerk is occupied. Obviously, Mike Gilliard's position is occupied. Those are filled positions. The part-time position that's in housing is not filled. That's vacant.
Okay. Do other people have
part-time position? I'm sorry, Ren.
Go ahead, Tony.
What's the part-time position, John?
The part-time position in housing is that's the position for the list grant. Tony, that was the position you and I spoke about, the revenues and the expenses balance.
Okay. Alrighty, so we're going to move this all back on the economics, and that part-time position will be eliminated?
No, I feel like if you're going, if the council desires to make a move, I mean, obviously the mayor wanted to keep it separate. That was his wish for clarity for finances and keeping them separate. But if the council were to combine them, I feel like you have to combine the whole thing, not just certain employees. You know, as Michelle said, the way it was this year is everyone was combined in one department. That does present some challenges, but if you're going to do it, that would be the cleanest way.
So is anyone going to lose their position if we combine them back?
Not that I'm aware of, but I think you should ask Kevin.
Kevin, are you there?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so here's what we're wondering about. Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong. We're looking at the positions that are now in what's called the Department of Housing Initiatives. And we're wondering about keeping those under the wing, under the aegis of the Economic Development Department, rather than putting them out on their own. And so there's a question that has to do with, because there wouldn't be any financial difference, is this something that impinges on the power of the mayor to decide how to organize the bureaucracy? Or is that something that we can do in order to maximize the possibility of all of these folks working in economic development rather than being dedicated solely to housing initiatives?
Yes, this is a separation of powers issue, and it's clearly under the executive branch. So you're stepping into an area that is under the authority of the mayor. And I think that while you guys have ideas and it's good, there's something to be said about sharing them and trying to work with him on these issues, because you never know. He may say, you know what, that's a great idea, and let's work to try and make that, and I'm willing to partner with you on that. But now you're talking about day-to-day operations that are clearly under the authority of the mayor.
All right, so our power would be to change any salaries here, but not to determine what line they go under if there's no monetary change.
Well, see, now you're talking about changing structure and who is reporting to whom, which is a decision that is the mayor's.
Okay. Right. Okay. So does that answer everybody's question? Anybody got any questions here? Is anybody wanting to follow through with this? Patrick O'Reilly?
So what would the vote on this essentially do?
Well, if we vote it down, if everybody votes against it, then it does nothing. If we vote for it, the way it's listed right now actually would only move the one position, or rather keep the one position in the Economic Development Department. However, since we're not changing, our power is to change the money, so we could increase or decrease the salary. That's our power. What Kevin just said is, because of separation of powers, we don't have the authority to simply say, oh, we want this position in that department, not this department. Does that answer your question?
So if we vote this in, correct, Andrea's going to tell us that we just did something wrong?
Yeah, Andrea will. I think Kevin will too, and the mayor will also.
This will happen at the Common Council meeting?
Yeah, that's where the vote on this would happen, correct.
All right, so when we're doing this, it would, we would be told that this is not within our power?
Out of order, That's how I understand it. Doug?
If we vote this in, it just means we as the legislative branch is trying to micromanage what the executive branch can do. So I would vote this down.
Yeah. Is that clarifying for you there, Patrick? You'll work on it. All right. Anybody else? Is anybody else in favor of this one as written? Because we also talked about if we were going to put all those positions under economic development, we'd have to amend this resolution on the floor tomorrow night. And again, I don't think that we would be in proper order to do that because of what Kevin said. All right. Anything else on that one then?
Let's move on.
Let's move on. All right. So the next one, Resolution 201, adopting the change to the mayor's recommended budget. This is basically the start date of the vacant engineering tech position and increase the monies available for it. And this is what we were saying. This is where project management could be taken on. More project management capacity would be in this position. Comments? Anybody concerned with this one? Everybody okay with this one? And this has the advantage too of not increasing any positions. Yes, Tony Davis.
So I'm just trying to follow it because it says this is 201 we're on, right?
Yes, sir.
So it says the start date of the vacant engineer and tech position and increase in the sewer fund. Is the money coming out of going into the sewer fund from this or something?
The pay for that one comes out of both the two different sources.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And so because of that, there would be a very small increase in the sewer fund payment of 1 penny. So, right, John? Yes, John.
Yeah, sorry. There's a couple things on this resolution I should just point out. There's references to 2020 and 2021, and I see July 11th and January 11th. The move would be from July 1, 2021 to January 1, 2021. And regarding the pay, it's a position is split between the general fund and sewer fund. And Randy, what was your specific question on that?
No, I was just pointing out that there's two different. It comes from two different budgets. Because Tony was asking about what the sewer fund references to.
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of administrative positions in the city that are split between a general and sewer. And those employees in the engineering department who work on sewer projects will have a split with the sewer.
Okay. All right. Good. Let's see. Then if we're all good with that one, we move to 202, So the result of these various changes from the previous 4 or 5 resolutions would actually allow us to reduce the appropriation of fund balance by $31,000. And so that's what this one is about. If we follow through with these previous resolutions, this has a positive effect on the fund balance. Any comments?
You're right. It balances out all the 3 or 4 other resolutions we made. This is what's left over. It's a positive change. So it goes back into, it goes credited to the fund balance.
All right. Everybody okay with that one? Good. This would give us some more money to spend in case of emergencies here in the COVID crisis. So, all right, then resolution 203 is the general one approving the city's 2021 general fund budget. Everybody okay with that one? All right, 204 is approval of, I think that should be a $sign there, the tax levy, $17,675,495 to be raised by the city's budget. This again would represent the same amount as the last, I believe it's 5 years in a row, 4 years or 5 years, which in essence is a tax decrease if we put it against the rate of inflation. This would be every budget of the current mayor would in effect be a tax decrease by keeping the tax levy at the same rate. Is everybody okay with that? All right, 205, authorization to adopt the homestead, non-homestead based proportion ratio for the 2021 tax year. Doug, can you give us a little word about what that means so we're all clear?
Dan, do you have any comment on this? Dan Baker? Dan, are you still with us? Well, he spoke to this, and as a result of his recommendations, this is where the resolution came from, and it was approved by unanimously at the by the Finance Committee at the wrap-up meeting.
Right. There is a long history of this particular ratio, long and sordid history, which we could go into, but the basic idea is that this is trying to maintain something of the balance that we currently have so that it doesn't get out of whack, which would do if we were not careful. John, do you want to speak to it at all?
Sure, Rennie. So yeah, the ratio as the report that Dan Baker makes to the Finance Committee is that there's a number of options for the city to elect. The percentage ratio that that passed through the Finance Committee was the 20% shift. It was the same percentage shift that the Common Council adopted last for the 2020 budget. It's also the shift that keeps the percentages as close as possible to the prior year, minimizing swings in the tax rate between the two classes.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be, as Rennie, as you mentioned, it would be consistent with the changes that the Common Council has adopted in the past. We've been trying to make a shift. The 20% shift has been opted in by the council a number of times.
Okay, so everybody good with that one? Everybody in favor of some order here? All right. 206, approval of the sewer fund at $5 million and change. Everybody enjoy having sewers that work? Everybody okay with this one? All right, 207, approval of the city's sewer rate at $6.20 per unit. Everybody good with that one? Okay. I think we're done with all the budget ones. Patrick O'Reilly? Yes, sir.
Is that $6.20 per unit increase, decrease? What is it? Anybody know?
Don Tui?
That's a 1 cent per unit increase.
So that would be a very low percentage.
Yes. Yes. Far under 1%.
You okay with that, Patrick? Anything else? All right. So resolution 208, adding a stop sign on Bond Street. Everybody okay with that? Technically, this should be resolution 007 anyway. Resolution 209.
Oh, let's move on. Appreciate the effort, though. We need that.
It's after 9 o'clock. Resolution 209, adding handicap parking on Hone Street. 210, handicap parking on Linwood Place. There was an issue, I believe, with that one. Steve Shabbat.
Actually, I want to, just to back up, the resolution 208, I don't know if it's a big deal or not, but Bond Street is spelled differently on, it's mentioned twice in the resolution, it's spelled differently.
Yeah, so Alyssa, if you can take care of that, we'd appreciate it.
Will do.
All right, so Linwood Place, is this the address we were looking at that had the dilemma because of alternate side of the street parking? Tony, do you remember?
Yeah, I talked, no, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Patrick.
I talked to the resident at Linwood Place, and they're fine with the signs being put in front of their lawn and not on the other side. So they were very happy just to have it every other day.
Okay, good. All right, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Michelle Hirsch?
I just had a quick question from Public Safety the other night, the no parking at 317 Hasbrook. Do we actually vote it down? I don't see a committee report.
Which one are you talking about, Michelle?
317 Hasbrook, the one with the curb cutouts for the driveway.
Yes, I think that was tabled for more information or something.
Okay, I just want to double check. Thank you.
We didn't vote
right.
on it at all. We tabled it.
Sorry. Okay, 211, removing handicapped on South Manor. 212, approval for adding DPW charges to the 2021 property tax bills. Everybody okay with that? An efficient process there. 213, approval for adding building safety division charges to 2021 property tax bills. Same idea. Everybody good with that? Okay, resolution. Results. There's another word that needs to be looked at. Resolution 214 needs to spell correctly. Approval for adding energy improvement corporation charges to the 2021 property tax bills. Everybody okay with that one? All right, and then the last one, resolution reallocating $4,500 from Kingston City Schools internship program to Business Alliance of Kingston's Made in Kingston. Who was this?
Yeah, where did that come from?
Community development.
Community development. Community development.
Can you tell us what it's about, Steve?
Yeah. We kind of moved this up a little bit because the Made in Kingston event is coming up. It would usually be in our usual deliberations about block grants, but we decided to move this up a little because I think the event is next week. And we usually help with the funding for this. It's a good community event. It's really a labor of love this year. They figured out a way how to do it online this year. So there will be no on-scene sales and shows. It's all going to be online. All the sales will be online. So I have to give them credit. They really thought this out, and they come up with a way to get this done. You know, I really thought this was going to be out for this year, but they are going to be moving forward. This is what we usually fund for them. So you know, we just moved it up a little. That's all, because time was of the essence.
All right, Don Tollerman.
The money is to be used for their marketing of the event.
And this is a normal
Mostly-
expenditure, right?
Yeah, mostly marketing. Yeah, there's a couple stipends now because of the way they're doing it. The bulk is for advertising and promotion, but they do have a webmaster this year. I'm trying to think. I think there were 3 positions related to getting this done online that they felt they needed a little more expertise. So that's in there. That's in there also.
All right, Tony Davis.
Why is it stated
And Michelle Hirsch.
reallocating from Kingston City Schools? So you took it from that program and gave it to the Business Alliance? Is that what happened?
I'll be sure. I'm not really quite sure why that's stated like that. I can find out for you. Andrea, do you know?
I do know. So that internship that was allocated last year, I think when you were chair, Tony, but then they couldn't use the money, most likely because of COVID, when the schools closed.
Okay.
So that money left to then be reallocated. So they kind of, in essence, said, we can't use this money, and gave it back. So we didn't really take it from them back, and then we had to reallocate it.
Thank you.
Michelle Hirsch.
I had a question, and then now I have another question based on that exchange. So if we're reallocating based on what the HUD person said when they presented to us, do we have to have a hearing for that? And then my second question is, is there community block COVID, the second round? Did you guys allocate that? Are we voting on that tomorrow night? Okay.
Steve, you want to add?
We haven't done that yet. We will be setting some.
Go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead, Andrea.
That'll be the,
Okay.
for me.
We will be.
That's confusing me.
All right. Any last words here? Don Tollerman
Last words on this resolution or for the meeting?
for the meeting.
Yeah, I was wanting to bring back to the floor. Last month, there was the issue of the budget allocation for the intersection at Planet Wings, Pine Grove, and Grand over there, and we were unable to, because 2 members of the council were absent. We were unable to achieve a supermajority on that approval, so it didn't pass. But before we speak to it, Kevin, Brian, are you there? Is this the right place to be addressing this? Kevin?
Go ahead. Doug, I had a long conversation with Kevin about it, so I think Doug can speak to it, what the procedure is. Although it looks like he's having a hard time finding the unmute button. Oh, there we go. One or the other. Kevin, did you hear what Don was asking there?
I didn't. I'm sorry.
He's asking the procedure. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Don.
It's about the approving the budget for the intersection at Pine Grove and Planet Wings. And
what's the procedure for bringing that back to vote on Tuesday night, tomorrow night, because there were 2 members absent from the council last month when we voted on it?
So you're talking about relative to the budget?
No, that's not in the budget.
To the bond.
Bond,
Are we
right?
talking about the bond?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're talking about a motion to reconsider from the floor, which will bring that original resolution that went down back up. So it's a motion to reconsider the vote on the bond, which motion would be made. There would be a first and second, and then obviously no opposition voted, it gets approved, and then once again you would be voting on the bond.
That has to be done.
So it's a motion to reconsider that would be made from the floor.
Thank you.
All right, Patrick O'Reilly.
Does anybody remember what the vote was last time the count?
It was actually 5 in favor, 2 opposed, and you need a supermajority of 6. And it's an absolute number. It doesn't matter how many people are actually there.
So it's actually 5-4.
Technically right, because of the 2 absences, it would be listed as 5-4. But because of the 2 absences, that's what gives us, that's what allows for, rather, the motion to reconsider to be entertained.
So should we discuss it tonight?
Well, if anybody wants to speak to it, they're certainly welcome to.
I'd like to speak to it.
Sure.
So this is my ward, and it seems to make sense for a few reasons. The first reason is safety, most important reason. According to John Schulteis's data, there are more accidents. This is one of the most accident-prone intersections in the city, and because it's confusing how it intersects with Prince and Grand Street, it is a liability to us. So that is the number one reason I think to go ahead with it. The second reason is the fact that this is the eastern end to the Broadway streetscape. So Kristen Wilson was going into detail with me and a couple of other members of the council. I think just the fact that all the traffic lights from the traffic circle to this light will be synchronized. And if this one if we don't approve this budget, that will not happen. So that will potentially create traffic backups and sort of not finish all the investment in Broadway. It'll disrupt the eastern end of it. I was talking to Tony about this earlier, and he made a good point about the fact that this project has cost us more than we expected, and the acquisition of Planet Wings, and now there's going to be new money needed for the demolition and the asbestos abatement. And it comes down to a question of, is it good money after bad money? Do we just stop the whole project for this reason? And I think the net effect of this will be a safer intersection. And one big benefit, which is that Midtown will in the end have a public gathering space that where the Planet Wings is now. Midtown does not have any place to meet up, to have a pop-up, market or art show or performance. Uptown has Academy Green, downtown has the waterfront and Block Park, Rotary Park. Midtown doesn't have any such place. So it won't be big, but I think it will be significant for Midtown and a nice amenity for the neighborhood. So all things considered, I think that we should vote to complete this intersection and get the work done.
Steve Shabbat, then Tony Davis.
All right. Thanks, Ray. I voted for last time. I'm not going to change my mind on this. I think pretty much for what Donna said. I said this last time. I think that intersection is terrible. It really needs to be reworked for safety reasons, and I know it's aesthetics, but you really can't overlook aesthetics too much, especially what we're doing on Broadway with the whole streetscape
We're really trying to put in a showpiece for people who come into the city and go down Broadway. This has been a topic for years and years, long before I even dreamt of running for council. This has been a topic to make Broadway shine again. This is an opportunity to put something in, with the new streetscape. As Don said, there's going to be a nice little park there. Just getting rid of that building will be a huge addition, aesthetically. And I can't discount the aesthetics here. But that aside, safety should be paramount here. And we've heard over and over again how many accidents there's been there, and how many close calls have been there. I know I've been involved in many close calls there. So we don't want to discount public safety. And I hate to keep saying this, but I don't want to discount the aesthetics of this. And I think it's really going to add to the character of Broadway. So I'm gonna stick with my vote.
All right, Tony.
I have nothing at this time.
Okay. All right. Anybody else on this issue? Kevin?
Just so you know, the motion to reconsider would have to be moved by someone who voted in favor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you know that, but I just thought it would be good to just remind you.
Always good to clarify. We appreciate it. Better safe than sorry, as they say. All right.
I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
And who were the two non-votes? And besides me and Patrick?
Jeffrey and Rita.
Thank you.
Jeffrey.
No, I was just responding to Tony's question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I thought you wanted to speak. All right. Okay, Patrick?
Jeffrey, you have anything to say about why you voted that way?
No, basically what Don just mentioned about the expenditure, the fact that I'm still having a hard time thinking about this. When it was proposed to us, at least when it was proposed to me in a private meeting, I was told that this was to be wholly grant funded and no cost to the taxpayers, and that hasn't been the case. So
we do want to keep in mind that there's $700,000 on the table from the state of New York through Kevin Cahill. $50,000 is through CDBG funds for the removal of the asbestos. So while there are expenses, there are also monies in support of this project that will ease the cost. And I think too, there's something really important to think about, demonstrating that we want to invest in creating an inviting and open environment along Broadway, because most of Broadway is, buildings right up to the street, basically. And this is one of the crucial things of urban design, is to have some green space that's dedicated to being able to hang out, being able to have a place where people can meet each other after they go to the various restaurants in that area in the summertime. It's a great place for people to go and hang out, talk, play music, and so forth. Patrick O'Reilly.
I just concur with you. I went to one of those meetings myself, with the mayor, and I did not believe at that time that it was going to cost twice what the original proposal was for, and I was led to believe that it was going to be fully funded. Also, we were going to pay for the $400,000 building, have it torn down by probably the DPW or something like that. And then the grant was supposed to pay for the rest of it. That was my understanding too, Jeffrey. So I'm with you on that. It does seem to be, so things have seemed to change 100% in the cost.
Any other comments? Michelle Hirsch? Oop, there you go.
Hi, sorry. While this project's been ongoing long before I was in office, and I do understand all those concerns, and I shared some of those concerns as well, including, the sewer down below, I do see this as a vital economic development project for the Midtown area. We have kids walking there, going back and forth to the high school, going to the Y, going through that intersection. The Y is expanding their park behind it, so we will have additional, potential additional traffic there. We actually have more traffic. Also, the Fuller Shirt Factory building is open now and has employees in the building, so traffic is increasing in that area there. And so I look at it as, positive economic development and then also safety issues.
Great.
So I will still be keeping my yes vote.
Thank you very much for that. All right. Anybody else? Going once, twice, 3 times. One last thing real quick then. I sent you all an email noting that Valerie Dreyer is organizing a 12 Days of Christmas appreciation for local law enforcement. If you're interested in taking part, it has to do with providing and delivering some food to one of the 3 main agencies in the area. If you're interested, I gave you the contact information in that email. So take a look and take part if you're interested. All right. If there's nothing else, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Doug Coop, motion to adjourn. Second by Jeffrey. All in favor? Aye, aye, aye. All right. Budget season is over. Maybe we'll get back to some meetings that end before 85 o'clock. All right. Take care.
This conference is no longer being recorded.